So now let's talk about the appeal to authority fallacy, or more precisely, it's the appeal to unreliable authority. And the reason we're making this distinction, even though a lot of times people just say that's an appeal to authority when they're talking about this fallacy, is that there actually is a good version of this argument. So it's going to depend on basically what the premises mean. So let's look at the pattern. An appeal to authority pattern is pretty simple. Let me go ahead and erase this. It follows this pattern. Some person P says S, and so we conclude that S is true. And this could be a good argument. It could be the type of argument where this makes this more likely to be true, but plenty of times an argument follows this pattern and it is not the case that the premise makes the conclusion more likely to be true. And like all inductive arguments, whether this is strong depends on the content of the premises. So even though we have these placeholders here, it depends on who says it and what's being said as to whether it makes this more likely to be true. So the reason that this can often cause mistakes in people that accept that the conclusion is likely to be true based on this premise, is because we often attribute authority to people who aren't an authority with regard to the conclusion. So really there's a few questions that we should ask. What sort of authority is P? So is P an authority? And first of all, authority can mean a couple of different things. There can be cognitive versus what we might call positional authority. So someone's being a cognitive authority means they have knowledge with regard to something, and in particular we hope that it's knowledge with regard to S. So just because somebody's smart in one area doesn't mean that they're smart on this particular topic. So sometimes the appeal to authority happens when we know that somebody is smart in a particular area, and then we take their word for something in an area where they maybe don't know any more than anybody else. Now, positional authority is the authority that we often think of in terms of the military, or maybe authority that a parent has over a child, a sort of positional where they maybe have the power to command you, or the right to command you to do something, but that doesn't mean that they know more than not on a subject. Maybe they do, so it just depends. Maybe somebody might be actually a positional and a cognitive authority with regard to a topic, but simply being a positional authority doesn't make somebody necessarily an authority on whether something is true. So we actually follow this sort of a pattern of thinking for a lot of the things we believe. Like there's a number of things that you believe just on the basis of somebody having told you so. But it's easy to commit a fallacy when we attribute authority to somebody that doesn't have the authority on the topic in question. Another way that we do this, and it's not just with people who are smart in other areas, but oftentimes if the person has a particular amount of celebrity, or is just maybe well-liked among the group, people often want to follow or be like somebody that's well-liked. So there's a number of ways in which people can try to get you to believe something on the basis of somebody saying something, but we want to make sure that there is actually a relationship between those two things and not commit the fallacy of appealing to unreliable authority.